Hey, it's Peter Reed Miller from On Sports Photography with Peter Reed Miller. Today I'm going to talk about some of my experiences with the EOS-1DX Mark III. I know a lot of you probably got your cameras right about the same time that all sports in the world shut down, and maybe you didn't have the time to shoot a lot with it. I was very fortunate. I got mine in early January, and I was able to shoot 2 NFL playoff games and a Super Bowl with it. A few other things, but nothing really more a teaching gig at a workshop. So I'm going to tell you what I've figured out so far, which is not all the secrets of the camera by any means, and maybe not the best thing for you, but I'm going to give you some. I'm going to go through the menus, not all of them because they're endless, but I'm going to go through and try and hit some of the points that I had trouble getting my mind around and seeing my experience with using them. And I would refer you, and I'll give you a link at the end, to the Canon site, usa.canon.com. Look up the camera and look under resources. And there's an excellent white paper there, and there's also an autofocus guide. There's a lot of information there. Too much information. All right, well, let's get to the menus. All right, so number one in the red, white balance. I'm a big fan of the old average white band, AWB. If you shoot in the same arena all the time and you have to upload your stuff very quickly, maybe you want to set a custom white balance so you don't have to mess with things every time. Otherwise, this AWB has worked for me since I started using Canon digital cameras. Okay. You can see flash. When I'm using strobe, I do switch to flash. Cloudy might brighten things up on a really mooky day, but I've just gone with the auto. It's really worked. All right, set custom. Well, that's what you would do if you wanted it. White shift bracket, white balance shift bracket. Huh? Pass on that. I like sRGB for color space. I'm not a color expert, but this seems to be the consensus. Now, Canon has a number of picture styles. They make a little difference. I think you're fine in neutral. I have gone for fine detail here. Maybe make things a little bit sharper, because that's what shooting sports is all about. So, clarity. The wonder of clarity. What is clarity? Well, according to everybody I've talked to, it adjusts the contrast in the midtones. So it doesn't mess with the highlights or the shadows, just in the midtone. So if you're shooting a portrait, for example, and you want to soften the skin tones, take it down a little bit. If you're shooting on a mooky day, a flat day, a cloudy day, you want to brighten things up a little bit, take it up a little bit. I didn't really. I had a night football game, night Super Bowl, and a pretty flat. I didn't notice any difference, but it's there, I'm sure, and you can play with it. So I think I'll just pop in here to remind you. Do I fit in here? Okay. All right. There I am. Okay, and this is lens aberration correction. It's pretty automatic. It'll figure out what lens you have on the camera, and it will correct for it. And distortion correction, you probably want that on. Digital lens optimizer, I enabled that. So there we go. Page 1. All right. By the way, a little tip: if you want to move quickly around the menus, there's a little Q button back here that'll jump you from color, from red to purple to boop, so you don't have to flick through with the controller. Okay, JPEG quality. Well, that's pretty obvious. HEIF quality. This is a new file format, and there's not much about it yet. I think it's really something. It's for high dynamic range. It's 10 bits. and it's really it's designed for displays, monitors that support HDR, and that's what it is. I think there's a lot of stuff coming. Canon wants to have new printers that will do it, etc., etc. But for now, it's kind of like, well, we'll see what happens with it. You're future-proofed. Okay. Image size and type. I guess I was on JPEG for the Super Bowl, but I usually like to shoot RAW. Now, people have told me they've gotten great results with this C-RAW, which is a little bit smaller, takes up a little less room, but I like plain old RAW. You've got these cards now that have 1,000 frame buffer. RAW, JPEG, whatever. Why not shoot RAW? Why not? So, there we go. ISO speed settings, the range, I would say with the Mark II, I was very comfortable up to 4,000 and happy to go to 64 and started to feel uncomfortable at 8. Now 4 is like comfort zone, 64 is no sweat, and 8 is better. This is about a stop better ISO. And I don't, you don't need all those ranges or anything like that. Let's see. Menu. Okay. Auto lighting optimizer. Yeah, okay. We'll go with standard on that. Long exposure noise reduction, I have that off. High speed noise reduction, I think I have a little bit of that. But again, shooting RAW, a lot of these things don't really come into play. Highlight tone priority. Now that's something they recommend if you're using the HEF file. They recommend you use the highlight tone priority. So we'll enable it or enhance it. We'll just enable it. Okay. Alrighty. We're moving along here. Okay. Image review. I don't really like that coming up after the shoot. I don't want that in my face, so I have it off. Release shutter without card. No. I have that because I'm kind of demonstrating here, but that should be off. That is the old forget to put the roll of film in kind of thing. You really don't want that. Mirror lockup, not pertinent. Dust delete data, let it do. I do not use external speed lights. Now the anti-flicker shooting is something that's pretty cool for those of you who shoot like in high school gyms or stadiums where there's the light cycle. It does slow down your motor drive a little bit, but it does an amazing job of shooting. When you shoot something where it's green and orange and green and dark and light, suddenly mellows it out. They've had it in a couple of cameras. I've used it. It's pretty amazing when you need it. When you need it. Okay, HDR PQ settings. No idea what this is. Not available. Oh, it's something to do with clarity. Okay. As I said, I'm going to tell you about what I know. I'm not going to pretend to tell you about what I don't know. And I'm going to tell you about what I use, and I haven't used it all that much. But what I've used it for, and what I mostly will use it for, is football. And so that's what I'm talking about. Enable live view. Now, live view in this camera is something different. Now, it's not very convenient to shoot with a loop stuck to the back of your camera. I know Hoodman makes a nice one. But I did try it. And first of all, your speed goes up to 20 frames a second. And secondly, the autofocus is amazing. What this is what you're going to see in the next Canon mirrorless camera, the R5. And it's going to knock your socks off. It really is. If you want to just get a feel for it, as I said, it's very impractical to actually shoot that way at a football game or something. But you should check it out because it's pretty amazing. I might do a whole video on that. All right. The purple. We're into the purple zone. Okay, so Canon has actually done a nice thing. They used to have 6 zones. Number 1, which basically works for anything. Number 2, which is will stick to things, but it's not gonna jump to a wide receiver or something like that. I always found it too slow. Number 3, which instantly focuses on everything whether you want it to or not, so I found that too fast. And number 4, which was at my old sweet spot and still is. Now, instead of 5 and 6, which I don't think anybody understood, I never did, they've gone with this auto. And the auto's not bad. I used it for about maybe a quarter in the game in Baltimore, when the Titans beat the Ravens. But I still like to do some selecting. The camera is very, very smart, but I don't think it knows all that much about football. Maybe another sport with players a little more spread out, it would do better. So I go with 4. Now, okay, I don't mess with this stuff. I don't mess with a lot of the autofocus. I really think there are too many choices, but so I leave that. Electronic, auto assist beam, one-shot release. I never use one-shot, always AI servo. Okay, subject tracking settings. This is new. The new camera has face detect and head detect. Head detect is a great thing for a football shooter because a lot of times you won't see those faces, or a hockey shooter, or anybody where guys wear helmets. It only works on the zones. It doesn't work where you're just using a number of squares. I'll talk to you about that. But it does work when you're in the zones, and I found it worked pretty darn well. Supposedly they have millions of images of heads somewhere in this camera, so it knows exactly what to do. In any case, it does work. Now the eye detect currently only works in live view, so that's the next step up. And I know some other cameras have that, but it works well in live view. But the face and the head detect, that's pretty darn good. But that's AF priority people. So if you're not shooting people, if you're shooting cars or maybe birds or something like that, you can disable it. But I always shoot people, so enable it. Subject switching. Okay, you can disable it. This camera will stick like glue. It'll follow a player off the sidelines and into the locker room. Little too much for me. If you enable it slow, I found that worked really well at football. It will stay on players, but if you need to switch to another player, you can do it. It's not still looking back for that other player. If you enable it full speed, it's going to move wherever around. And I found again for football, it was a little bit too fast. So I like it on slow, and I like it again on AF priority people. So there. Okay. Alrighty. Let's go up. Lens drive on AF impossible. Selectable AF points. Okay. I kind of, for whatever reason, a lot of this stuff is embedded in my old school thinking. I go with the cross type only. I'm not sure why, just because I always have. But select AF. Select mode. Okay, here's your AF points, and I think you kind of all know them if you've had cans before. But this one is the super small. That one's next one's the regular. Then the expanding, which I used to use a lot. I used to use these two a lot. Then you have a zone, and then you have this large zone. I used the large zone, which I never would have thought I would, and it did great for me. It did amazing for me at football. So I would say try it. Then you've got the auto. Again, you're trusting the camera for better or for worse. I like the large zone. That's all I'm saying. So method. Okay, that's however you want it. Orientation linked to AF points. Separate points, I do that. So when, sometimes I want to move, if I'm going vertically, I want to move the AF up a little bit, the zone up a little bit. A lot of this is trying to figure out a new way here. Okay, initial servo AI point. You can kind of mess with that in terms of where it's going to start. You can control that to a certain point. Okay, and now AF point selection movement. Okay, again, this is something that is a little bit has to do with the magic controller button, which will allow you to move your AF point anywhere. I have not used that. I just it's something brand new to me. I wasn't going to use it in a playoff football game, so I can't comment on it. I'm sure once you get used to it, it's very good. Display during focus, not really. Brightness, status. Micro adjustment, I never would mess with my camera like that, so we'll just leave that. Okay, disable. Yeah, I don't. I mean, I send my cameras to Canon. I need them adjusted. Okay, the whole blue world here doesn't really have anything. These are mainly having to do with stuff that you're doing right out of the camera when you're printing out of the camera, etc., etc. So I don't mess with it. Wi-Fi, I have not done any Wi-Fi with this camera. I'm not very experienced with cameras and Wi-Fi. I've played with it a little bit, but I'm not the person to ask about this. I don't do it. Okay, the yellow menus. Record function, card folder select. You want, you're going options. You want auto switch cards. I mean, it's really hard to fill one of these 250 gig cards, but when you do, you want to switch right to the other one. You don't want your camera to stop. Auto switch cards, okay. Menu. File numbering continuous, file name, you can call it what you like. Auto rotate on the computer, not on the camera. I don't like to turn around like that, but that's personal. Format card, display brightness, display color tone. Don't mess with your display brightness because you will judge stuff by your display, and if the display is way off, your exposure is going to be way off. Okay, auto power off, I set that as long as possible. Date, time, language, viewfinder, info button. As I said, that info button can be a big help. It will tell you stuff about every menu option you're on. You hit that info button and, well, maybe not this one. Quick custom control, all right. Well, that is not going to show on this screen, apparently. It's a very handy thing. You're going to be out at a game somewhere one day, and you're just going to look at a setting, and you're going to draw a blank. You can't remember what it was or why you're doing it. You hit that info button, and it's going to tell you. It's going to tell you. Custom quick control. That's sort of nice. You can have that, so you can have these various controls on the back. Now the rear viewfinder is a touch, or the LCD is a touch screen. I turn that off again because I tend to move my focus point with my nose, so I don't do that. But you can select the things you have: manual, aperture, shutter speed, ISO, what focus pattern you have. It's pretty handy. It's pretty handy. So it's worth setting up. Okay. Alrighty. Battery info. No. Nothing much here. Nothing to see here. HDMI. Save loadings. Camera settings. That's how you can set up one camera and then set up your other cameras when you get them with the same settings by loading it on the card. Manual software, certified firmware. I think there is an upgrade firmware. Always stay on top of that. Go to the Canon site or watch Canon rumors someplace. But when they come out, usually Canon's firmware upgrades are very worthwhile and tend to add features. So it's a good thing. Okay, all these things. A lot of them are pretty self-explanatory. And very much personal taste. I've got one thing here I'm going to show you, if I can get to it. AV setting, shutter release time lag. This is one I found a couple of cameras ago. And basically, here you go, maybe, okay. Even faster shutter release. Shortened. Deactivate control release lag time, which is usually controlled by stability of the shutter timing. The release time is normally 0.05. When it's shortened, it's 0.029. So that's, what, about 26.026 milliseconds or seconds. Hey, Sometimes it can make a difference. I'm always shooting wide open. It's basically to compensate if the lens is stopped down and it has to stop down. It's just a little thing. Does it really help? No. Is it psychologically helpful? Yes. So that's really that. And shortened. Okay. All right. Default erase. Custom record. So, and then you have the green, the configure my menu, which is great. You can put whatever you want, whatever 10 features you want on that menu, so you can go there right there. You don't have to fish through all the menus to do that. So yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts. I hope this helps you a little bit. I know we all want to get out and shoot more with our new cameras. They're wonderful. They're the best ever, and I think we're all going to have a great time shooting with them. There's a lot to be discovered. Certainly I haven't covered everything. I've only shot one sport with it, really. But hopefully gave you some idea on what I've been doing so far. Again, I would suggest that you go to the Canon site, usa.canon.com, and look up the camera. This is a white paper. I put a link down on the bottom if you can read it. That's excellent on the camera, and there's also a manual on the autofocus, which hopefully will improve you and not confuse you. So with that, that's all I got for now. As I said, when I get to shoot some more, whenever that is, I'll probably post something else, a little more refinements, but for here, these may be some starting points for all of you. So stay safe, stay healthy, stay sane, and good shooting. Thanks. I want to thank my friends at GF Crew for making this video possible. If you want to make money shooting action sports, check out GF Crew. Go to gfcrew.com to join. It's free. They have a whole process and an app set up to help you make money shooting sports. Check it out. Get started today.